The Earnestly Speaking podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
Yeah, Earnestly Speaking podcast. Let's get it. I'm a giant in New York, in Miami carry heat. So much more in store, my product can flood the street. Opinionation Godfather, CEO. Puff in the late 90s, gon' see me blow. Oh, got my hustle on, no imitation of bad. Army of untouchables, opinionation staff. Never an off season, homie, check the numbers. Heart throbbing my own right, supplying southern comfort. Earnestly speaking, my ego is well fed. Earnestly speaking, you're too feeble and no threat. See, I'm like a hurricane, you're a mild breeze. Earnestly speaking, leaving Eli a dynasty. Shake!
Earnestly Speaking podcast coming to you April 3rd, 2024. Back here, of course. Well, the guy in the left corner, left hand corner, or northwest corner, he's been. I think I've in just a span of 10 days alone. It's been on what, at least 4 episodes we've done together, Rob. Between this show and the wrestling retro show.
No, I think so. Yeah.
RobTheGenius is back again. He was on the show yesterday. Back on again. And of course, DJ Vinder is his sidekick also of the Management Podcast, Truth or Management Podcast. DJ, how you doing, buddy?
I am hanging in there, boss. Just relaxing for a change.
Yeah. So this is kind of an emergency podcast, sort of, because we saw, and for the last couple of weeks they've been doing this, but they finished their list this today. Bleacher Report put out their top 50 WWE all-time superstars, and I didn't really see the list because they revealed 1 through 10 today, but I didn't see 11 through 50 until, was it yesterday or something was? Yeah, it was yesterday. I saw it. Or Monday, whatever it was. And Rob was talking about it, and it's like, yo, we need to react to this at some point, like ASAP. And I said, you know what? Let me get an extra body here too, also, to kind of maybe we can have a little balanced, nuanced conversation on this. That's how why DJ came in the first place. Let's just say that the list, controversial to say the least, depends on how you look at it. But yeah, and they revealed 1 through 10 today, and it's what is that?
What in the world is?
I'm gonna get beam me out, Scotty.
What's that?
I have no idea.
Was that noise on somebody else's end?
Oh, that was my yeah. I'm sorry.
I was like, what the heck was that?
Sorry.
That's funny. I was like, what?
Do we got a fourth guest on the podcast now?
No.
So anyway, we want to react to the list because we have a lot to say about it. If you see our text machine the last 24 hours, it's let's just say there's a lot to unpack here. Before I do that, in fairness for the Bleacher Report, I want to read their criteria because I think it's important to see what went into this list, what they considered. It was a panel of 6 guys. I know one guy I'm familiar with, Graham Matthews, who's a big co-host with my good friend Randy J. Cruz on the Cruz Club podcast. They do wrestling podcast together. He's on the panel. But basically, the criteria is the list of superstars determined by our panel used this following criteria to compile this countdown of iconic competitors of different eras. So they considered the following: historical significance. Did they have a meaningful impact on the history of WWE? Championships. Were they among the most decorated in company history? Popularity. How over was the superstar with WWE fans? Needle mover. Did they make a meaningful difference in ratings, ticket sales, and overall business? Time active. Was a star successful over a sustained period of time or just a flash in the pan? Pay-per-view appearances. Were they fixtures on the biggest shows in WWE? And of course, skills, which of course is in ring, mic, charisma. Were they more than just a wrestler? Did their skill set stop at the microphone? Were they charismatic? So that was Bleacher Report's criteria into how they came up with this list of 1 through 50. Before we get started, just before we get into the list itself, we're gonna break it down. DJ, what was your reaction? Because you've seen the list already. What was your reaction for what you saw?
The top 10 is egregious. And I say this because one of my all-time favorites is sitting at number 1.
Right.
And we can break that down a little bit more.
Right.
I'm looking at just the top 10 by itself, and I've got a lot of questions right now. And when I look at their list of criteria, their number 1 doesn't check off all the boxes.
Yeah.
And like I said, we'll break that down a little bit more. But I really had some issues.
Real quick, your mic is cutting out. Like I can still hear you, but it's like cutting it out. I don't know if you noticed that.
That may be me because
it's definitely you.
Okay, then it's me. I'll talk.
Okay. No, I was saying that. It goes out and it comes in again. And even when it goes out, it's still low, but it's
okay.
Goes in out. Right. All right. Rob, what was your first reaction to seeing the list?
Okay. Well, it stinks. I mean, it really does. I mean, and starting at the very bottom, even at the bottom of the list, it stinks. And I was in the car going home today, and I was thinking of names that were not on the list, and I just got like more and more irritated.
Yeah. And I want to know also to the panel, because I only familiar with one writer of the 6 that voted on this thing, or ranked this thing rather, the age group of these guys.
Yeah, this reeks of bias.
It reeks of like 35 and under, or 30 and under even. Yeah. So I definitely want to break this down. I definitely want to see that. But okay. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna take the list down. We're gonna go into increments of 10. Well, I'll read off 50 to 41 backwards, and we'll go from there and react to what we like and don't like, and what's wrong, and this and that. So 50, they're at the Big Show. 49, Lita. 48, Vader. 47, Dean Ambrose. 46, AJ Styles. 45, Asuka. 44, Kofi Kingston. 43, Jeff Hardy. 42, Ravishing McRude. And 41, Sasha Banks. I think for me personally, the big standout here is Vader. Vader probably shouldn't be on this list at all.
No.
Why it's kept?
Not at all. Not when you go by their criteria. I absolutely agree. That's the first one that stuck out at me when you were reading off the list.
Because remember, we're talking about their WWE career, not
WCW. Career. Right, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, because if we're talking total careers, and Vader, it should be on somebody's top 50.
Yeah.
But but his WWE career was not. It wasn't very long, and it wasn't very good.
No, it was dreadful.
And here's some names that are not on this list at all.
Okay.
Who very clearly had better WWE careers than Vader.
Okay.
Paul Orndorff. Tito Santana. How do you not have Tito Santana in your top 50?
I agree. Former IC champ. Former tag champ.
Two-time Intercontinental champion.
And former tag champ also too.
Yes, and back when being a 2-time Intercontinental champion was something that did not happen.
Okay. Well, he was with the company for like a decade or more.
More than that. Yeah.
So no Tito Santana, no Paul Orndorff. And here's a guy whose title reign wasn't particularly good, but his career was better than Vader's. And that's Diesel.
Yeah.
Diesel was not, his world title reign was nothing to write home about. But his career, he won all of the titles.
Yeah.
He was champ for almost a year. Vader won no titles. Vader barely main evented a couple of shows, and some of that wasn't his own fault. Some of that was because Shawn didn't want to work with him anymore.
Yeah.
But Diesel was tag champ, Intercontinental champ, world champion. He main evented some pay-per-views. He defended the world title at WrestleMania. He fought the Undertaker at WrestleMania. That's better than Vader. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah. That is better than Vader's WWE career. Okay. Come on now. What are we doing?
I agree. I am not the biggest Big Show fan in the world. I've always said his career is a bit of a letdown considering the expectations. But him being this low is pretty egregious. I ain't gonna lie.
Well, yeah, because he main evented WrestleMania. He was world champion a few times. He held every title. He had a very long run there. He was there for like 20 years.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I mean, many times he was a bit of a joke as a character,
Right.
but I mean, okay. And here's another one who's not on the list: the British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith.
Yeah.
He career Vader.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, he was Intercontinental Champion, European Champion, Tag Team Champion. I mean, that's better than Vader. I mean,
I will say one thing about this first 10 here, group of 10, that they get. Most of these guys are pretty much okay where they're at. I'm really glad they recognize Rick Rude, because Rick Rude is actually where he should be. Because had Rick Rude had a longer career in the company, he would have been a lot higher. Because that character, and we discussed it on a Wrestling Retro podcast quite a few times when we did our watch-alongs, and he's involved in these matches, and the impact he had in those 3 years between 87 and 90. He wasn't there long, but those 3 years he made a mark.
I think I said that on one of our episodes.
He did.
When I think about Rick Rude, I feel like his run was a lot longer, but it really was only 3 years, and that just means he crammed so much good, iconic stuff into a short period of time, and that's a credit to him and how they were booking him at the time.
Yeah. His feud with Warrior, his feud with Jake, his feud with Piper, and I mean, he had a lot of significant feuds in that company. He really, in an era where the mid card really mattered a lot, he was right in the mix of that.
Absolutely.
So I thought I got that right. Other than that, no other issues really in this list. At least on this first group, Kofi 44, whatever. I'm cool with that.
Do you think Sasha Banks is a little low?
I'd say when you look at some of the people who are ahead of her, I'd say yeah.
I'm there too. She also made
WrestleMania.
Right.
She made a few other pay-per-views.
She's a multi-time champion.
Yeah, she won every title there was to win at the time. And then
I feel like you could have placed her above China. I mean, we'll get into that later.
Oh, we'll get there, definitely.
Yeah. China's interesting. We'll get to that. But,
that's a discussion of itself.
Yeah, because go ahead, Bob.
Okay. When you look at who's ahead of her, I mean, some of the names that are ahead of her, and I'm going to get that in the next 10. I think she's definitely had a better career than some of these people who are ahead of her.
Yeah.
Even males.
I'm talking about males. I'm talking about males.
And especially, I think it's also, if you even include her NXT stuff also too.
Well, yeah.
Because it is technically WWE. So you include that as well too, to work with you at NXT. That puts her into a top 3 discussion at that point.
Yeah. In
my opinion. So there's that. Any other standouts in this group of 10? Dean Ambrose? No? Everything's fine there?
I think if he'd stuck around longer, we'd be having a different discussion.
Yeah.
Is he a tough 50 guy though?
Yes. Oh yeah.
Okay.
He's part of one of the biggest acts in the last 20 years. He held every title. He was main event a bunch of pay-per-views. The only thing he didn't do was main event WrestleMania. So he's definitely top 50. Yes.
The only reason I might make a case of Jeff Hardy being a little higher is because he was in one of the best tag teams of all time, and he did hold a world title once, and had a solid solo career too.
Yeah.
I'm not saying put him like in the 20s. I'm just saying this maybe a little bit bump, maybe to the low 30s, but that's neither here or there though. You know what I mean? It is what it is. Everybody else here is fine, honestly.
Yeah.
So before we get to the next 10, you guys are good with this one? No?
I think I'm good.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's get to 40 through 31. 40, we got Superstar Billy Graham. 39, Rob Van Dam. 38, Owen Hart. 37, Mr. Perfect. 36, Batista. 35, Ultimate Warrior. 34, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. 33, Booker T. 32, Jake Snake Roberts. And 31, Kane. All right, for me, what stands out here, and I can't believe I'm going to be defending this guy here on my podcast, consider my history with him, and I can't stand the guy since I was a child. Ultimate Warrior is too low. I'm sorry. I get the shit, the dislike and all that. But Ultimate Warrior, in an era where it was hard to stand up because of Hogan, and he was established on some parts, Ultimate Warrior made a mark. He's arguably one of the greatest IC champions of all time. Wasn't a great title reign, but that match with Hogan at Mania 6 was fantastic. And for the character itself, he was, for the character what it was supposed to do, played to perfection.
Yeah.
So I get it. I'm sure they're probably penalizing him because of the shortness of the run. But again, this guy, one reason why I always said that the reason why he's my number one IC champion all the time is because he's the only guy in my lifetime that made the IC title actually feel like it was on level with the world title when he held it in 88 through 90. So that's why I think War's a little bit lower. He certainly should be lower. He should be below Ricky Steamboat because Ricky Steamboat had even a shorter run,
Ricky Steamboat's way too high.
Yeah, and I love it. Is he top 50? I'll give him top 50, but not in not 34. So that's
he was only there like 3 years.
I'm going to say something rather controversial.
Go ahead.
I love Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. I don't feel like he gets way too many marks for that one really good match with Randy Savage.
Well,
he had great matches, but I feel like people overinflate his importance in WWE because of that one match. He was only there for 3 years. He made a much bigger impact in WCW.
Yes,
he was a much bigger player over there. Amazing worker, one of my all-time favorites. If you had to ask me my personal list, he makes my top 20. But in the WWE, as we're discussing this and with the criteria that they laid out, how is he even on this list?
Yeah, and ahead of guys that won the title or did more in the company by virtue of what the list criteria says. Time spent, this kind of thing, like Perfect and Owen Hart, for example. She had Owen Hart. That's ridiculous.
Because I think there were times where he and Tito got there around the same time. I mean, just kind of comparing the two. I mean, Tito Santana did far more than Steamboat, and like we're talking about people who were ahead of Sasha that I think should not be. I was mainly looking at Ricky Steamboat.
Yeah, and I hate saying that because he's one of my all-time favorites. But going on the list criteria,
correct?
Yeah, this is.
How did he make the top 50?
Because I mean, the vast bulk of his best work was in the NWA and WCW. It was not in the WWF. It was, I get his best match in the WWF was that one match with Savage. But I mean, you measure that against all the matches he had with Ric Flair and the matches he had with Steve Austin in WCW, and and the matches when he was a tag team wrestler with one of the Young Bloods, and they were tag team champions a bunch of times in the NWA. All of that far eclipses anything he did in the WWE.
It eclipses that one WrestleMania 3 match. Sorry, guys, absolutely. It's an iconic match, but it was one moment in time.
I mean, look, he had 3 matches in 1 year with Ric Flair that stand up to that WrestleMania match. Okay,
fact.
I mean,
and the worst part is that Savage is the one that benefited off that match more than anybody else because even though Steam won the match, Savage's profile just went through the roof at that point.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? By the way, a little sidebar with Steamboat. You talk about great matches. One low-key great match he had actually, just to get talked about, obviously, because the show got panned to hell. Which, by the way, I just watched the entire thing for the first time in a bit. WrestleMania 4, his match with Greg Valentine in the opening round of that tournament. Those boys went to work.
Yeah, I remember that being a good match.
Valentine actually had 2 great matches on that show with him and Savage, but with Steamboat and Savage in the second round. Both matches were really good.
Well, I think Steamboat and Valentine, they had history going back to NWA, so they, they had worked together.
They had chemistry already.
Yeah, it's not surprising that they, but yeah, Steamboat's just way too high. I mean, if you're doing an NWA top 50, he'd be way up there, but it's not just. I mean, Rob Van Dam.
Real quick, before we go Rob Van Dam, Rob, real quick. Superstar Billy Graham. This was the Hogan for Hogan.
He's hard to see. All right, so he's hard to figure because he was world champ for almost a year, but of course that was before pay-per-views and before WrestleMania and all of that stuff.
Right.
He beat Bruno, and like I said, he was basically the model for Hulk Hogan in terms of look and all of that. But his WWE career, I don't know how long he was there, but the good stuff pretty much all happened within that 1 year where he was champ for almost a year.
A lot of his, and this is where the list kind of gets a little muddy because some of Superstar's career overlaps with Vince Sr. still owning and running the company.
Yeah.
Correct.
So are we judging WWE from its roots or from the Vince McMahon WrestleMania era forward? Obviously, with names like Superstar and Bruno Sammartino on this list, we're fluffing the list a little bit.
They're giving a pass on certain guys.
Yeah.
And now since we're talking, there's another name that is not here on the list at all. It should be there.
Pedro Morales?
Yeah, Pedro Morales. Yes, he was world champion for 3 years.
Yeah.
And he was Intercontinental champion. He was the first Grand Slam champion.
He was the inaugural Intercontinental champion, wasn't he?
He might have been, but he was.
It was him and Patterson, one of the two.
Yeah, he was the first.
It was Patterson. I'm sorry.
Okay.
You're right.
Was Patterson? Okay.
Patterson was the inaugural.
Yeah, he was the first guy to win all the WWF titles. He was the first Grand Slam champion.
While we're talking Intercontinental champion, how the hell is Honky Tonk Man not on here?
And that's another one.
Ooh, that's tough.
How the hell is Honky Tonk?
So let me. I'll defend that part because while I agree, Honky is arguably one of the greatest IC champions in the history of the company. In fact, our good friend Duke Bennett says he's number one all time because of what he did in that one reign. That's all he has is that 1 year.
That's true. Once it was over,
that's the problem. Once Warrior beat him in SummerSlam, he fell off quick. So that's why it gets harder to put him in the list.
Yeah,
it'd be the same way with Steamboat trying to squeeze him in the same way with Steamboat.
I think we could have booted Vader off this list and shoehorned about a half a dozen other guys.
If you're saying Vader or Honky, give me Honky all day long.
Right.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
And to not have Pedro Morales on here at all, again, I mean, that's ridiculous. That is utterly ridiculous. Come on, then.
All right, you mentioned Rob Van Dam. What's going on with that?
Okay. Well, because he had a very brief run as world champion. He was comparing him to like Sasha has far more accolades than him.
Yeah. He's too high.
He's too high. I'm not saying he shouldn't be on here at all, but he's too high. Mr. Perfect. People love. He was actually obviously a great in-ring worker, and the gimmick was great. He didn't win a whole lot of stuff though. He was had a couple of short IC title reigns.
He had done beating the streak too, going to WrestleMania 6. Other than that, I think he's actually plays well here. I don't think he's too high, too low. I think he's
no. I think in the 30s, mid to low 30s is.
Oh yeah.
If anything, Owen Hart is way too low. It's a little low, not way too low, but a little low.
Owen's a difficult discussion as well because the way his life and his career ended. If you're sweeping the tragedy off the table for a minute, Owen was what? Was he? I don't think he was Intercontinental Champion, was he?
He was.
Yeah, he was. He was.
Okay, he was Intercontinental. He was a tag champ, I know for sure, with Yokozuna.
And Bulldog.
And Bulldog.
Okay.
He was a regular on a lot of the. I'm going over their criteria in my head. He was on if he was healthy, he was on the show. So he did a lot of pay-per-view events. My question would be is how, they use the term over. How over really was Owen Hart?
It's hard because the era was rough. It's rough.
Yeah.
He's misused, dude. I just watched the watch along with last night with his match with Brett at Mania 10. It's on the top 10 discussion of best matches in history of WrestleManias.
Hey, quick question for you guys. I'll kick this to you first, EJ.
Okay.
Owen Hart, good heel or terrible heel? Because in my opinion, he was a terrible heel.
Really?
I didn't like Owen as a heel. I never believed him as a heel.
I did.
I would much rather have seen a babyface run from him.
I thought it was a good heel, actually. He wasn't. Technically, he was babyface. Blue Blazer was a babyface character.
Yeah.
So technically, he wasn't Owen Hart. No, I thought he was a good heel because he was annoying, little snarly. He did his job in the Brett feud. He did his job.
In the Brett feud, it worked, but everything else, I looked at Owen like this guy's a babyface. He's not a heel.
Interesting.
Rob?
I thought he was a good heel, but it's just, to me, I never saw him as world champion material the way a lot of people did. That's for me, like, I mean, because when I see people say, well, Owen should have been a world champion, I'm just kind of like, really?
Oh, you should have been transitional champion at least, though. I can see holding the belt for like maybe
I
2 months.
just, I mean, looking at who else was, I mean,
You look at the field at the time, and Owen Hart falls down the ladder real quick.
I mean, well, he could have taken Backlund's place when he beat Brett and lost to Diesel 2 days later. I mean, okay. I mean, that's about it. That's about as far as I can see it going. Um, you know, I just, I mean, because in terms of just pure stature, I mean, Brett had him beat there. Shawn had him beat there. Diesel had him beat there. The Undertaker had him. I mean,
Razor Ramon had him beat.
if you're the booker, you pick any of those guys to be world champion before Owen.
Right.
Yeah, and if Vader had panned out right, you would pick him before Owen.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're talking 5 or 6 guys there already, and
I mean,
go ahead. So I don't know. I think he was great at what he did, and I think he was about, as far as his spot on the card, I think he was right about where he should have been.
Right. What we'll do? We'll go individually. We'll do the 10, reveal the 10, and we'll go individually with each wrestler and see how we feel about each wrestler. So we did perfect. We did Owen Hart. 36 Batista.
Oh, he's
is
another.
Is he too low?
I don't. Well,
that's not my error, really. I checked out when he did his thing.
Well, because his continuous run was about 7 or 8 years. He was injured a lot. He was world champion a couple of times.
Right.
He did main event WrestleMania a couple of times.
A few times he did that?
Well, like he beat Triple H in one of them.
21, I know that.
And then at 30 against Daniel Bryant, he was in there with.
Okay.
But I think I mean, he's 30. He's 36.
I actually lean that he's in the right spot. I lean that, but again, I'm coming from an ignorant point of view, though, so I'm gonna admit that.
I mean, because I missed most of his run, also. But if you're asking, he's another guy. If you're asking me who had a better career, him or Sasha Banks, I think Sasha Banks did.
Interesting. Okay.
Then yeah, I mean, because again, he was injured a lot, and he missed and he was not a great in-ring worker at all. I mean,
if he had a good dance partner, Batista looked better in the ring than
than
you gave him credit for.
Yeah, but it's but like on his own, he was. I mean, he wasn't like okay. I mean, he wasn't. He was better than like people say Goldberg was or whatever. He wasn't. I mean, but he was limited. Okay, he wasn't dangerous. He wasn't injuring people or whatever. But I mean, he was. But like you said, if he had the right opponent, then yeah, you could have you could get something really good out of him. But if you ask me who had a better career overall, I mean, yeah, I mean, there are people I would say had it. I think, I mean, the grand scheme of things, I mean, Kofi didn't main event WrestleMania, but in terms of everything else, I mean, I'd say he had a better career than Batista.
Well, if nothing else, longevity.
Yeah. I'd say, same thing I said, Oscar. Oscar didn't main event WrestleMania, but in terms of everything else, I mean,
So I know we touched on the Warrior, but did you have a reaction to Warrior 35, DJ? I remember asking you if you had.
I think that's probably about right, and only because again, longevity. The guy could never sustain any time in the company to really build that legacy. I mean, yeah, the character is iconic, and during those moments in time, he was super, super popular. But one of the criteria on their list, and again, I'm going to get a little controversial here, is were they a flash in the pan? Ultimate Warrior had one World Heavyweight Championship run. He had one fairly brief Intercontinental Championship run. And then he was gone. I think if he had more championship runs and a longer tenure with the company, maybe a little higher. But yeah, that's where I'm at with that. And I say that as an Ultimate Warrior fan. I have defended the guy on multiple podcasts on multiple occasions.
Mm-hmm. Well, Rob, you think Warrior's fine? 35? It should be higher or lower? What do you think?
I think he's probably about right. There's some people below him who I might put over him, but then there are probably some people ahead of him that I would put behind him. So, I'd put him ahead of Ricky Steamboat. Just like we said. Right? Yeah. He had longer runs with the title than Steamboat did. And he did main event WrestleMania.
And only that, he actually had two. For a guy that wasn't considered a great worker, he has two back-to-back Mania matches that were classics.
Yeah,
him and Hogan, and then Savage at 7.
So he's probably about right. Yeah, I'd say okay. Yeah, he's probably about right. Again, there are people behind him I'd put ahead of him. There are people ahead of him I'd put behind him. So he's probably about right.
All right. So we did Steamboat already. 33 Booker T. That sounds.
It sounds low.
It feels a little low though, because I feel like his career WWE once he got there, he was probably one of the only guys that came from WCW that really took off immediately when he made landing.
Well, because he's one of the few guys that Vince didn't really change anything with.
Right.
Like usually Vince brings people over from WCW or from somewhere else. He had to put his thumbprint on it. Like we've got to change something about you so that it's mine. And Booker T, he pretty much brought him over and put on TV what he paid for.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm trying to look and see how long he was there, because that's where it gets I think.
So he got there 01, right? 01. And then he was there for a good, at least 6-7 years, right? 07 at least, 07, 08.
All right, so he got there in 01 when after WCW went over, because he's one of the few guys that didn't have one of those big contracts with Warner to just home. So he left in 2007. So he was here 6 years.
That's still pretty good, but it was a consistent 6 years.
And it was an impactful 6 years.
Yeah.
Because, he won, a couple of world championships. He had a hell of a run as King Booker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was over as a character, and that's one of their criteria.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, getting 5-6 years as a semi-top guy, that's you're doing a good job, in my opinion. And it's not like his starting his career. He's like he ended his career, not just like WWE, wrestling in general.
Yeah.
So, 32 Jake Roberts. I'll say as a Jake Mark, I love that he's gonna respect her, because he's probably he might be the only guy in the top 32 that didn't. Well, Andre may be the other one, I guess, that didn't win a title.
Well, I think if you ask me, he very well might be the best WWE wrestler to never win any title.
Outside Andre, of course.
Well, no, Andre was tag champ for the.
Oh yeah, the Colossal Collection. I forgot.
Yeah.
He and Haku.
Yeah, so I'd say, because Jake didn't win any titles, Jake rarely got any title matches. Okay.
Yeah.
So as for WWE wrestlers who never basically sniffed a championship, I think he's probably the best one. Because everyone else you can think of had at least one somewhere. So yeah, he's probably the best WWE wrestler to never win a championship of any kind.
He's actually, I think, looking at, because we had such a talent influx last generation, 42 doesn't sound that bad, actually.
Yeah, and when you consider again that he won no championships, so you do have to consider that. So I'd say he's the best WWE wrestler to never win any championships.
Right. DJ, you have anything on Jake?
I would argue you could probably put him a little bit higher, because he does check off most of the boxes. I'm looking at the criteria. Mm-hmm. Historical significance. Obviously, 30 years later, we're still talking Jake the Snake Roberts and his influence on the industry, being not only a great in-ring worker in terms of psychology, but in cutting promos. That's still a learning tree kids should be sitting under. Popularity. He was easily at one point a top 3 babyface character in the company.
Easily,
he was there. A needle mover, you bet your ass. If Jake the Snake was on the card, he was selling tickets. He was moving merchandise. You know, these things are all important. Pay-per-view appearances. Again, if Jake was healthy, Jake was on the show.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so yeah, I mean, he easily checks off 5 of the 7 criteria. You know, so putting him at 32 may actually be a little bit low if you're going on there. You know, he loses points for never winning a championship and probably a couple other little things, but yeah, I would probably put him higher than 32.
Okay.
And I mean, you know, and according to him, you know, from what he's, you know, basically they canceled the feud with him and Hogan because they were worried that, wasn't going to get the right reaction.
Yeah, there you go. And I believe that for the record. I mean, that's.
Oh yeah, because people loved Jake back in '86, man.
Yeah.
You couldn't,
Oh yeah, Jake the Snake. I think people who are younger than us don't understand how over that guy was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and then, absolutely,
exactly. And I mean, they had to turn him babyface because, I mean, it was, you know, same with Savage, same as Savage. They had to turn him babyface because they were just
the reaction of the crowd.
Cool to boo, man. You know, they both of them were too cool to keep going. And
too cool, too good at what they did.
Yeah.
You know, 31 Kane. This feels low because longevity alone gets you.
Kane doesn't get the credit he deserves, I think, from a lot of people. Because, you know, Kane basically, just like the Undertaker, Kane is a gimmick that should not have worked.
Yeah.
It absolutely that gimmick absolutely should not have worked. That gimmick should have been a short-term thing at best. You know, he should have done the feud with the Undertaker, and that should be the end of it. You know,
he took what almost 20 years out of that thing. 20 years almost.
Yeah,
nearly 20 years out of that character.
Because he came in and he came in at the end of '97.
Yeah,
he didn't actually wrestle till '98. And he didn't. What was his last match? His last match was.
Like 16, 17?
Yeah.
A little earlier?
Like that. Or maybe 18, yeah.
Mm.
So, yeah, and so that's 20 years.
And then I look at and to like DJ's point here, like you look at the criteria, he hits all the boxes here. Historical significance. Arguably the greatest debut in history of WWE. Arguably.
Yeah.
I mean, because we're still saying now, that's got to be Kane.
Yeah. Championships. He's won titles. He won the world title. He won the tag title. Popularity. He certainly, when he was a babyface, he was definitely over. And then when he's a heel, he definitely had heat. Definitely kneel him over again, the debut, you know, and then changing the gimmick over and keeping it fresh. I mean, time active, obviously. I mean, that he has that in spades.
Yeah.
Pay-per-view appearances, he definitely has that now. And skills. I mean, he wasn't the greatest like in-ring worker, but you know, he played the character well, like Warrior. So to me, he was a little low. I'm not saying put him in the top 15 or 20, but you know, 31?
31's low.
I think it could be higher than 31. Yeah.
Yeah. DJ, your thoughts on Kane?
I agree with you guys. I mean, we're going to get into the 30 through 21 here in a minute. Mm-hmm. He could definitely, I have an argument that I could make that he could be above the guy that's right above him.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah. Oh, we're getting there now because here we go. 30 to 21. 30, we got Mr. Razor Ramon Scott Hall. 29, Trish Stratus. 28, China. 27, Charlotte Flair. That's Rob's girl, of course. 26, Seth Rollins. 25, Edge. 24, Ric Flair. 23, Becky Lynch. 22, Daniel Bryan. And 21, Triple H. All right, let's move back to 30 first. Razor Ramon. DJ, what you got to say?
He should have been below Kane. And I love Razor Ramon. Mm-hmm. Like his time period where he was IC champ is one of my favorite eras of the Intercontinental Champion. I loved him as IC champ. Yeah. But again, if we're talking about all the other criteria, he checks off the multi-time champion with the Intercontinental Championship. Mm-hmm. He was over like $1 million, both as he had heat as a heel and he had everything going for him as a babyface. So he checks those off. He loses points because he never had a world championship. His longevity wasn't there. He ended up going to WCW, you know, with the NWO gimmick. So he loses a couple of points there for me. It's, you know, and but he also has historical significance because, again, how many of us are still doing that walk? How many of us are still flipping toothpicks at people? I mean, there's a cultural significance there with him in terms of, you know, wrestling history.
And you could argue he has a arguably Mount Rushmore Mania match with the ladder match against Shawn Michaels, and then Mount Rushmore SummerSlam match, the ladder match the year after that, in SummerSlam '95.
And in my opinion, a top 5 finisher. The Razor's Edge has been one of my top 5 finishers forever. Oh yeah, absolutely. I love the Razor's Edge. Love it. Yeah.
And we talk about Owen Hart being like, how can you get a world title push? This guy should have gotten a world title push.
Yes. I scratch my head to this day how he never got a main event world championship push.
Yeah. I'm guessing because he left because if he had stuck around longer, I think he would have.
You think so?
Well, because Sid got the world title, and Sid got a world title twice after he left.
But I think a lot of that too is Vince. A lot of it is because Vince is stubborn. Vince was still in that whole era of I need my world champion to be this big, bulky, strong guy like the Hogans and the Warriors.
Scott Hall's right there.
What was I saying?
I mean, he was that. He was not.
Right. He was all of that, and he could work circles around Sid.
Right.
And he could cut a promo.
So I think if he had stuck around, I mean, like I said, Sid won the world title twice after he left, after Razor left.
That's a fair point.
Yeah.
I think you could have easily plugged him in for Sid in that same spot if he'd stuck around.
Right.
But, I mean,
I think they might have made more money in that time period if they'd done it.
But they, but that goes against him. He didn't quite get to the main event. So he was always in, the high mid card or whatever.
Right.
So that kind of works against him. But I would probably put Kane ahead of him because Kane had, Kane did all the things Razor didn't accomplish. Kane did accomplish.
Right. Definitely that. All right. 29, Trish Stratus.
I think she's too low.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I know people, she is still at her peak. She is still the most popular regular woman wrestler by far at her peak. People do not understand how mainstream popular she was at her peak. It is more than any woman who, not counting Ronda, because Ronda was already had an outside thing when she came in. But as far as like women who got popular within the world of professional wrestling, Trish got more popular than any woman ever since she came in. People do again. She was in mainstream magazines back 20 some years ago.
She became what they wanted Tammy Sitch to be without all the problems.
Yeah, correct. And so people don't, and so people like, and her and Lita main evented Monday Night Raw 20 some years ago. Back when that was not a thing that happened ever.
That was a banger too. That was a banger.
It was. They had awesome chemistry, those two.
Yeah, and so they did that back when that was not a thing that happened.
Mm-hmm.
Ever. So I think she should be higher. Honestly, I think she should be the highest woman on the list.
So I won't say that she's too high or too low, but she should be a lot higher than the next person on the list. Chyna 28.
Oh, now to me, Chyna stunk in the ring.
Chyna should be in the list at all. I mean, it's quite as kept.
Well, at one point she was really super popular. She was really over. But other than that, I'm going to look.
Okay, Rob, that's one criteria. What about the other 5?
Well, she stunk. She stunk as a wrestler. She stunk.
Right.
Okay.
So that's
the only reason, like when she looked good, is because she was in there with like,
Jeff
Jarrett, and because she's remember she's a former Intercontinental Champion.
Right, and
she has another check mark then, I guess. There you go.
Look, I don't think she didn't have one good match with a woman wrestler. I don't think.
No,
unless it was a squash match. She had a squash match with Ivory that wasn't bad, but that was all Ivory working.
But and if you had as good as work as Ivory was, if you had to book a squash match against Ivory, that means that the person beating her wasn't very good.
Yeah.
If you couldn't book a regular match with her and Ivory back then that tells you that she wasn't very good. So she stunk as an in-ring worker. She was over as a character and as part of DX and all of that. But
that's it.
Yeah, again,
not hit a Trish, not hit a Razor Ramon, not hit a Kane. Come on now.
No. Again, I think Trish should be the highest ranked. Wherever she would fall, Trish should still be the highest ranked woman.
Possibly. You say that, but then 27 is your girl Charlotte Flair.
Trish and yes, and
well, we got to keep it real here, man.
Trish is by far the most mainstream popular woman who was an actual wrestler in the history of that company. Okay. And she won the championship that has existed then several times. She main evented Monday Night Raw back when that did not happen. And not to mention, I mean, and within the last 5 years, she had she had a banger singles match at SummerSlam with Charlotte and a banger match with Becky at Payback last year. So she came back at almost 50 years old over the last 2 years, the last 5 years. And
can I argue this feels a little low though for Charlotte?
I think she should be higher than Rick because.
Oh, wow, question. I argue Rick shouldn't even be on this list. I argue that.
I mean, maybe lower. I mean, definitely lower. But again, Rick is the same thing with Ricky Steamboat. I mean, their work was elsewhere.
Outside of WWE.
Their best work was all elsewhere.
Right. We'll Rick in a second, definitely. But like with Charlotte, I think Charlotte was a little low because now the longevity thing is in play now. Titles in play. Over. Yeah. What else am I missing? What other criteria? She's checks almost all these boxes that they have in this criteria. Time active. Pay-per-view appearances, needle mover,
She's Ric Flair's schedule. She should be ranked at all.
He's being petty right now. One thing that I want to say about Trish, to kind of piggyback on what Rob was saying, Trish became the template 20 years ago for the modern WWE female superstar because she was out there having really good wrestling matches, and she was trying to break past that women are here for sex appeal stereotype. And obviously she was very much, the sex appeal was there, but she was also excellent in the ring. And what started off as you are just here because you are a smoke show turned into a woman who revolutionized at least WWE's interpretation of women's wrestling. And was with that main event with her and Lita on Raw, showed us what women could do and what WWE could have done with their women instead of parading them out and putting in jello matches. And so she's the template for what we're now getting from the current women's division. So I agree with Rob. She should be the highest rated woman on this list for cultural significance. Because her as a wrestler changed the women's culture. It just took them 20 years to catch up to it.
I will confess though. Go ahead, Rob. Go ahead.
She turned herself into a good wrestler at a time where they weren't really trying to turn women into good wrestlers.
That's a good
all
point.
of that.
That's a good point. That's a good point. And I will confess though, Trish's peak when they started taking her serious as a wrestler is when I checked out. Like I knew who she was, even as the era of the whole nine, but she was more about the smoke show than about the actual in ring product.
Well, that's why they hired her, but she wanted more.
Right. And when it started taking her seriously is when I checked out anyway. And obviously in hindsight, I see the impact. And I'm not even saying she's low or not. All I'm saying is that she's be higher in fucking China. That's all I'm saying.
100%. She's much more influential on the women's. And that's, again, not a knock to China's significance. She paved some ways. She definitely blazed some trails for what she was trying to do. But for me, Trish will always be more culturally significant in the history of wrestling.
Right. So 26 got Seth Rollins now. If this was done 2 years ago, I would have seen their point. Not now. This is way too fucking low. Sorry. He's top 20 all the time.
I got to agree with you. Seth Rollins is a top 20 for me.
And I mean, looking at some of the people ahead of him, there's one name that's in the next group that. Well, actually, there are a few people that we're going to get to here that are. I think he is definitely had better careers than those people.
Yeah.
So I don't know exactly where I would probably he should be top 20.
Yeah.
I mean, he had better careers than a lot of these people who are ahead of him.
I agree. 25 Edge. That feels a little low too. Also, not egregious, but a little low. If you include his work with Christian, also with the tag team, and what he did also in the mid 2000s after the transition from the Attitude Era to Ruthless Aggression, he's one of the top guys there, radar superstar, the whole nine.
Yeah,
he feels a little low. If we put him in 20s, put him like at least 21, 22, but not 25.
And I'll give him credit for also. I mean, those last 3 years when he came back.
Yeah.
Again, after spinal fusion surgery, and at almost 50 years old, he came back. He made it at WrestleMania.
Yeah,
he had a second Hall of Fame career in WWE. He really did.
Yeah.
Yeah. 24, Ric Flair. Fucking egregious.
Yeah.
I mean, again, it's recent. I mean, like, I don't know where that, because I mean, it's funny because I mean, Rick has gotten more culturally popular and culturally relevant over the last 10 years than anytime he was wrestling. But yeah, I mean, and I think that's what that is. I think people are looking at how he became this kind of almost pop culture figure over the past 10 years or so. And not the fact, I mean, again, his best career work was in the NWA by far.
Yeah.
And look, and now, and I mean, it's not that his WWE career was bad. It's not that it wasn't bad, but it's just, you know, I mean, his best work was outside of there. His best work.
It's outshined by anything he did outside of WWE.
Yeah, and so
I mean, the guy was on the other side of 40 when he really made the full-time transition. Hell, he was on the other side of 50 when he became part of Evolution.
Yeah, and I mean, as far as his WWE, I mean, and honestly, you could say his best moment during his WWE career was the last one,
where Shawn retired him.
Yeah,
even more than Royal Rumble '92. I mean, regardless of greatest Rumble of all time, it's regarded as such.
Yeah, so. I mean, I guess we'll see. Because when that happened, I was still pissed because he wasn't in the NWA anymore.
Oh, so feelings.
I would say if we're talking cultural significance, more people parody "I love you, I'm sorry," than parody "with a tear in my eye."
Now, because
when you think about wrestling fans and popularity and what we remember as moments. Mm-hmm. They remember that more than they remember the '92 Rumble.
Yeah,
maybe today, I guess. But my point, I think my larger point too, also is this: is like, aside from the Rumble '92, I'll give you Mania 8 with Savage, and then Evolution, and then that moment was with Shawn Michaels. What does he have in WWE that even world else you think considers great work?
The only other thing he did was a very brief run as World Tag Team Champions with Roddy Piper.
That is it.
And then,
that's it.
And then also the match he had with The Undertaker at Mania 18 was very underrated.
Okay.
But still, that's not.
But not 24 good.
No, you should not be 24.
He's not better than Edge.
No, he's not better than Edge. Not better than Seth Rollins. Not better than Charlotte. I'd say not better than Trish.
Not better than Razor.
Not better than most of these people.
Yeah.
If you put him on a list, if he landed in the 40s somewhere, I wouldn't complain. But I mean, it's 24.
Right. All right. 23. Becky Lynch. I'm gonna be honest with you. This was a little high.
Oh.
Yeah. Rob, you want to tell us about the orange-haired lady?
I think it's about right. I mean, there are people behind her who I might put ahead of her. There are people ahead of her who I would definitely put behind her.
Yeah, such as Charlotte, such as Edge, such as Seth, such as Trish.
I would say there's a period of time where she was outshining her husband.
Of course.
In terms of overall popularity and importance to the company.
Yeah. And I think that's being weighted in this conversation because in 2019, when I came back to watching wrestling, she was that year the biggest star in the company.
Yes.
Yeah.
Male or female. So
that's got to weigh in.
That
has to weigh in.
But it feels Ultimate Warrior-ish though. But Rob, it feels a little Ultimate Warrior-ish too though. It's like she's not that she's flamed out though. She's still pretty good. But she's nowhere close to where she was in significance 5 years ago in the last 2-3 years.
Well, that's because Hunter has focused solely on Rhea Ripley. Like Rhea Ripley is his creation.
Yeah, basically Rhea Ripley. I'm gonna say Rhea Ripley is what he hoped China would have become.
Right.
Very true.
That's what she is. And you can make an argument put her. I'd put her in the 40s if she was on this list. But I mean, I wouldn't.
Who? Becky?
No, I'm talking about Rhea. If Rhea was like number 50, if she was like number 50, I wouldn't yell at anybody over it.
Shit, if you put Rhea on the list of 50, then Bianca's gotta be there too. Also, Bianca freaking have 2 WrestleMania bangers.
I would love to see this list revisited in about 10 years when Rhea and Bianca have, cemented their legacies.
But let me say this:
we're going to be having a very, very different discussion.
Well, they're both better than Vader right now.
Yeah.
They're both. I mean, they both. Look, we can go through this list. I mean, they both got better careers than Vader. They both got better careers than Ricky Steamboat.
This is true.
If you look at it, I mean, there are a lot of people on this list that there's some people on this list that they already got better careers than.
I wonder if the panel is a fan of his music, his theme music, which I love, by the way. Is that why he's on the list?
Maybe.
So
dun Bonnette.
Vader is one of the, but Vader is one of the, I guess, I think he's one of those squandered, things that they've ever had.
We're picking on Vader on this podcast. I love it. I love Vader, for the record.
I was a big Vader fan. His WWE run pisses me off more than just about anybody that Vince picked up from WCW in that time period. Because I'm like, how do you fuck that up? How do you screw up Vader?
I mean, look, Vader should. I mean, he's like central casting for Vince McMahon heel. After having worked on Andre and King Kong Bundy and all those guys, you couldn't have figured out Vader. Again, some of that is Shawn, because Shawn was being a jerk.
Some is also Vader not doing as good work as he did in WCW. It is what it is.
Yeah, but going. But all right, keep going, because we gotta keep going.
All right, fine. 22, Daniel Bryan.
Ooh, okay.
That's one of those that you had to be there to understand it. You had to be there. If you, I wasn't watching. I got the I got a little bit of it being on Twitter all the time, but not watching wrestling in 2014. So I get the significance of that win at WrestleMania 30. I think it's fine in 22. I don't have a problem with
that. Yeah, I think ultimately that's probably about right.
Yeah.
Great worker.
Yeah.
Consistently on TV. He was a needle mover. I mean, if you're looking at the criteria, he was a multi-time champion.
Mm-hmm.
He main evented a couple of WrestleManias.
And he was probably one of the best pure in-ring workers of the last 20 years.
Oh, without question.
So, he checks off all the boxes.
Now, I guess, of course, to the work rate nerd, can tell you that his best work was outside of WWE.
Oh, they can.
I know, but that sells short what he did.
Yeah.
What he did, everything he did, WWE is really damn good. So,
all right, this one to me is egregious. 21, Triple H, way too fucking low.
When you look at the people, some of these people who are ahead of him, yes,
he's arguably top 10. He's arguably a top 10 guy. I'm not saying he is. He's arguable. There's a conversation we had about that.
But yeah, and there are people ahead of him who absolutely should not be ahead of him.
Yeah, that is egregious. I mean, Triple H checks out every single box here. Historical significance, yes. Championships, yes. Popularity, he was mostly a heel, but he was way over heel. Needle mover, yes. Time active, obviously, yes. Pay-per-view appearances, he was consistent.
Yeah, if he was healthy, he was on TV.
Yeah.
He was on,
And then in-ring charisma, Mike, the whole night, he has all of that.
Yeah.
What are we doing here? I don't know, man.
There's a few of these entrances that are on here because I really like that guy, or they're really low because I don't like that guy. There's a bit of bias going on with this.
Oh, we're getting there. There's one in particular we're going to talk about in a second. So, no, 21 is you guys will agree it's egregious, right? 21 too low?
It is, yeah.
All right. Let's go from 11 to 20 backwards. All right, 20, you got CM Punk. 19, Randy Orton. 18, Eddie Guerrero. 17, Brock Lesnar. 16, Chris Jericho. 15, Mick Foley. 14, Andre the Giant. 13, Roman Reigns. Wow. 12, Rey Mysterio. And 11, Kurt Angle. All right.
This is where it goes.
This is where it goes bad.
However bad it was before, it gets really bad here.
Okay.
Yeah, we really hit the shits here.
All right. So number 20 is CM Punk.
Okay. I think 20 is fine, but there are people behind him who should be ahead of him.
Agreed. The case we made him be lower than be higher. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I think Triple H should be ahead of him. I mean, because he came in like, was it like
06.
2006? I mean, if we're looking at career, I mean, right now I'll put Seth Rollins ahead of him.
Hell yeah.
Now I'd say his peak popularity is probably higher than Seth Rollins' peak popularity. And he very well might be at his peak popularity right now. Punk.
No, I'll give 11 and 12. 10, 11, 12 is peak for me. Just based on that crowd.
Okay. I mean, but right now it's crazy right now. I guess maybe it's a matter of how popular he is right now versus maybe what we expected, right?
Right.
When he came back. But I'd say 20. There are people who should be ahead of him or behind him.
Yeah, I agree.
But I think 20 to 25 is about right for Seth.
Right. I think the case we made for me lower than higher. Put it that way.
Yeah.
DJ, your thoughts on Phil for Chicago?
Absolutely agree. I think no lower than 25, but definitely not in the top 20.
Right.
I mean, the pipe bomb. We can't understate these as much as I have my own thoughts about the pipe bomb. We can't understate its, again, cultural and historical significance to the industry.
Yeah.
It really got the WWE looking at a different type of wrestler, or at least open to looking at a different type of wrestler. And he really kicked that door open. So, yeah. I mean, he gets points for that. He loses points for longevity because he left. He gains points because he obviously was the most popular star during that little, 10 through 13, time period. Excellent in-ring worker, excellent promo. He checks off all those boxes. He's obviously a needle mover. He's shown that in 2024. He's still moving the needle. So, I mean, no lower than 25, but I agree with you guys. There's some people that are lower than him that you could put ahead of him.
Yeah. All right, 19, Randy Orton. This feels way low.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, longevity. Yeah. He's won championships. He's main evented not just WrestleMania, but a ton of other pay-per-views. Yeah, if he's another one. If he's healthy, he's on TV. Just a run of opponents that he's had great matches with. I think. Well, there people ahead of him who should definitely be behind him. I think he's top. He should be top 15. I think.
Yeah, he's also another guy I was saying borderline top 10.
Yeah. I mean, you can make if you made a strong enough argument, I wouldn't fight you if you put him in the top 10.
Right. DJ, go ahead. Randy Orton at 19.
Randy Orton at 19 is way too low. And I'm not the biggest Orton fan in the world. I think he loses a little bit of points because while he can cut a promo, he's not the best promo in the world, but he has a hell of a lot of charisma in the ring. Again, multi-time champion on multiple shows in multiple eras, and just a consistent presence on TV. So, it's absolutely. And again, one of those people that they built from the ground up.
Yeah. All right. 18, Eddie Guerrero. I'm going to get in a lot of trouble for this one because a lot of marks love him, and I do. I think he's great. I think he's
won't get in trouble here.
Phenomenal.
We're all getting in trouble together because I know where you're going with this.
He feels too high.
Way too high.
He is too high.
And the only reason I say that is because I think longevity is actually one of the biggest factors in wrestling history. Longevity should be a massive weight because that equals relevancy. That equals health, the whole nine.
Yeah.
He was there, 4 years? And he died.
Yeah. I mean, we're having a similar conversation about him that we did about Owen Hart. If he had lived and his career went on longer, we could make an argument for him to be where he's at. But again, or higher. Yeah, potentially, because Eddie Guerrero was that dude. I mean, I was all in, and I hate having this discussion, but if we're looking at this list objectively, and, kicking personal bias aside, I have to be honest about Eddie Guerrero's career. I love the guy. And again, he's probably a top 20 all-timer for me if I'm looking at the wrestlers that I've liked over the years. But on this list and by their criteria, I can't rank him that high.
Well, it's funny because the criteria thing, he actually checks a lot of boxes too because historical significance. He's actually one of the most influential wrestlers for this generation of wrestlers. Like, ask Sasha Banks, she'll tell you that.
He was a pioneer for this style that these kids like.
Championships. Yeah. He has a title. He won some big matches. Very popular. Moved the needle. Yes. The active part is where he loses points. He was only 4 years. Pay-per-view appearances. I'm assuming he was consistent in the years he was there. And then skills in ring, charisma. He had all that.
Yeah.
So I can see the panels. I disagree with Rob on this one point. Yes, he's high. I don't think he's too high. He's like a Punk. If he's in the mid-20s, I'm okay with that. Because it wasn't impactful 4 years.
Yeah, I think 18 is way. I think it's just way too high.
How low? How low do you bottom out then?
I mean, I think the longevity. I think again, he was there from 2000, and he wasn't there straight through either because he was either fired or suspended or something for a while because of his addiction problems. So he was there for
2001 and 2005.
5 years total, 5 or 6 years total.
Right.
And a lot of that was. I mean, he was a great in-ring worker, yes. But if you ask me, what was his best match? His best match was Halloween Havoc. It's Rey Mysterio in WCW.
For me, his best match was when he won the World Championship against Brock Lesnar. That match to this day just gets me.
Where was that? Is that from a Survivor Series or Royal Rumble? What was that from?
It was like No Way No.
Yeah. God, what a match! My God, what a match!
I gotta see that one. I never saw it before.
Check it out, man.
But I don't want to insult the Guerrero marks out there. So there's a lot of Guerrero like diehard stands that are gonna say, "What the hell are you talking about?" But I'm going based on the criteria.
Yeah.
That's all. This one's also way too low. 17, Brock Lesnar.
Yes.
The next two numbers piss me off.
Brock is too low. Brock. I think is he the fastest world champion ever?
I think so.
From debut to winning.
He debuted in April 2002, won in August.
Yeah, 4 months from his professional debut.
That's crazy.
4 months from his professional debut.
I think the impact too. Also, Lesnar's impact when he's around, the world changes the WWE. That's why I love people complain about I hate Lesnar because he's not there every week and this and that. No, you don't want him there every week because it doesn't feel the same. It doesn't work the same way. When Lesnar comes in spots as an attraction, it makes the company better in spots.
It moves the needle. He moves merchandise. Lesnar can't cut a promo, but I defy you to tell me that he's not charismatic.
Right.
And let me tell you something. If as much as people complain about him, if you've ever been in an arena when his music hits.
Oh yeah, number 2 favorite theme song all time for me. By the way.
I mean,
behind Austin.
It's like Godzilla showing up. It's like everybody's like, oh shit, somebody's about to get fucked up.
Yep, exactly.
And look, when he came, it was a SummerSlam 2021, right? When we had beaten John Cena, and everybody thought the show was over, and then we heard like the sirens. Everybody was like, "Oh my god, he's back!"
Yep, that's fun times.
And also, and I'll throw in terms of, and I've said this a few times in a few different places. I'll repeat it here. This current, turnaround in business was cemented by the road to WrestleMania 38, there were people on the internet saying that, we're doing Brock and Roman again. And those 3 months that led up to that match is when that was the foundation that cemented the turnaround. Like all the stuff, everything was cemented. Like everything that's come since then is piggybacking off of those 3 months. And that's Roman and Brock Lesnar. Okay, and then look at it as much as again, you talk about not getting off much, whatever. I mean, him doing the Cowboy Brock thing this last couple of years, which
awesome.
He saw coming. Nobody saw that coming, and he pulled that out. I mean, and so
Again, another guy who's had 2 separate Hall of Fame runs.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I would make it. I would listen to an argument to put Lesnar in the top 10.
The argument. He's my top 10. So
Yeah, he would easily be in my top 10 at this point.
He's actually number 8 on my list. I've got him on my list. 8 or 9 on my list.
And I'll say it here, he was the right person to break the streak.
Absolutely. I defend him to this day, 10 years later.
Get over it, people.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody else was going to take that win and do with it what he did. So get over it. Because
that streak parlayed what you saw after that for that next year. One of the most dominant title reigns in history of the company.
Yes.
So I agree with you 100% that, Rob. All right. 16, Chris Jericho. DJ, you're pissed about this one. Why?
Way too fucking high. And above Lesnar, Chris Jericho above Lesnar.
That part.
Stop. Fucking stop. Get out of here. And like I said, not discounting anything Jericho did in WWE, he had an amazing career. He really did. I mean, he, again, pinned The Rock and Stone Cold on the same night. Huge. We're still talking about it. Multi-time champion over multiple years. But overall, you're going to tell me on paper a better career, a better draw, a better attraction than Brock Lesnar? Stop. Full stop.
Hell no.
Yeah, without question. I'm with you 100% that one. Rob, your thoughts?
Look. I was at card carrying Jericho Holic at one time. Okay.
Were you?
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, going back.
Yeah, Jericho was a lot of fun in the late 90s, early 2000s, man.
Hell yeah.
He was fun, yes.
He was a hell of a lot of fun.
Yeah. But, I mean, looking at it now, I mean, comparing his career now to Brock, but also to Punk, to Seth Rollins, to, some of the end to Edge, some of these folks. If we were making this list, like 10 years ago, sure, but not now. It's just too hot now. Yeah. Randy Orton should be ahead.
Well, then we also have to talk longevity. How many times did Jericho leave and come back?
A few times.
He left to go do the Fozzy thing. Then he left to go do the game show thing. Then he left to go do what was the singing competition he was on the one time?
I forget, but
he was on a singing competition, and he left too many times.
Yeah. So I mean, look, Punk, Orton, Triple H should all be ahead of him. Seth Rollins should be ahead of him now.
Yeah.
I put Kane ahead of him now, to be honest. I mean,
I will say his early run though, when he got there, 99 to 2002, 2003 was amazing.
Oh, legendary.
And that might be weighted here too, also.
But I mean, these people do it recently. Yeah, I mean, but again, we're making this list 10 years ago. 16 would probably be about right, but not now.
Right. It's probably weighted because of that early run. I mean, and I agree, he feels a little high. Now I don't think it's egregious. I think 19, 20, 21 is right. That's the sweet spot.
That's fair. I think that's fair.
Yeah. Okay. 15, Mick Foley.
July.
I think it's correct. I think it's fine.
I think 15 is the right slot. Yeah, I like it.
He's not a top 10 guy, but he's historical significance, check. Championships, he won his one, not one, but the title he won when Austin came out and helped him. That was we still talk about that to this day.
And obviously a needle mover because that changed the landscape.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, the 83 weeks ended that night, didn't it?
Or it was not almost. I think.
No, it didn't end. What that night did was that WCW never got back in the lead again.
Okay.
Yeah.
From that point on, popularity as a heel, he was phenomenal when he first debuted Mankind, and then as a babyface, he was way over. He was after Austin Rock, he was one of the biggest faces in the company.
Yeah, he was number 3.
Active. I mean, his style of wrestling, not a long time, but I thought he went as long as he could, given the style of wrestling he was doing.
Yeah.
Pay-per-view appearances, he was consistent. Charisma, skills in ring. I thought it was good. Charismatic, definitely. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He's fine. 15. He's fine. I'm no problem.
I'm not unhappy with 15 at all for Mick Foley.
Rob, what are you on with Cactus?
I just because he loses some points of longevity because he got there in 96, I think is when he got there.
96 got there, yeah.
And he was gone in 2000. So
he did come back a couple times though.
He came back for one-off matches.
Yeah.
As a full-time wrestler, he was only there like 4 years.
Yeah.
But No, unlike some other people, I think his best work was there.
Of course.
But I think, because to me right now, I mean, Triple H, I'll put ahead of him. Brock, I put ahead of him. They're just guys I put ahead of him. So maybe 15 isn't too high, but there are people I'll put ahead of him that are behind him.
Right. All right.
I buy that.
Okay. All right. 14, Andre the Giant.
Way too low. Too low.
I don't know if it was way too low, but it's definitely low.
No, he was the other than Bruno, he was the attraction in the business up until he got too old. Okay.
But can you argue say he's a top 10 guy all the time?
Yes.
It's hard. It gets harder though when all these other guys are now coming into the fold.
Yeah, I still say.
Also, we go back to the same argument that we made with superstar Billy Graham. He was a Vince Senior era guy. Right. So a lot of people, again, younger than us, didn't see peak Andre, didn't understand how important and how significant Andre was to the business.
And honestly, we really didn't see.
We didn't see it either, because by the time we got to WrestleMania 3, we got broken down over the hill Andre.
Yeah.
Granted, still significant, still need to move the whole nine.
Still all the above, yes.
But not as good as he was years prior.
Right, in the 70s.
So, like, Andre feels low, but I don't think it's as egregious as you think. I think if you put like close to like between 9 and 11, 12, I'm okay with that. Because there are guys that had this moved up the ladder in the last 30, 40 years that you have to kind of give it to them.
Yeah,
it is what it is, so that's not Andre. And I love Andre, you know that. I'm a big Andre mark. So, DJ, what do you think about Andre?
This is a tough discussion to have because it feels like him being at 14 downplays his significance to the industry. But again, if we're looking at the criteria, Andre didn't win a whole lot of championships. He was an attraction. He was a needle mover. He was a merch mover. He was the top heel in the company at one point.
Historical significance with the WrestleMania 3 and other things he's done.
Yeah. It's hard to really, again, because he was not our era, it's hard to judge his in-ring work because what we saw was a shell of what he was.
Correct.
So you really have to go back to the late 60s, into the 70s to find out what a workhorse Andre was. And he was a workhorse. Like, if you ever want to find out peak Andre the Giant, go find any match with him and Stan Hansen.
Yeah.
Him and Stan Hansen beat the bag out of each other, man. And Andre, because Hansen didn't give a shit that Andre was a foot taller and 200 pounds heavier. He went in there fighting him like he was the same size, and it was fun. And Andre had to really step up his game. So to appreciate how good he could, and that's where I have a hard time with the in-ring skills, because what most people think of when they think of Andre the Giant is from WrestleMania 3 till, hit the end of his career without looking at the work prior to that.
Right.
So they may rate him lower because of what they think his in-ring work was, but that ain't representative of what he could do in the ring.
Yeah. Go ahead, Rob. Andre.
Yeah, I agree with everything DJ said. I just think putting him at 4. Yeah, I mean, again, for his significance, again, other than Bruno, like, he was the attraction in the business. But again, the championship thing that's legit. And because the problem is you couldn't put a belt on him because you couldn't take it off of him realistically. And but that does work against him though. So maybe 14 may end up being right, but I think it feels too low for me.
Yeah. No, I can see what you're saying.
It feels low, but I could understand the logic.
Here we go. I'm showing you a reaction to 13. Roman Reigns.
Too damn low. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, at this point, Roman's made an argument for top 10.
Yes.
Top 10. I mean, people are talking about Mount Rushmore now. We're there now. You heard your boy Duke last night on the last episode we recorded on this podcast. Made a point about him being Mount Rushmore and taking Austin off the Mount Rushmore and put Roman in there, which I completely disagree with him on that. But that's not a whole other argument for another day. 13 is egregiously low.
Yeah.
Now, I feel like these writers are still using the first 8 years of his career prior to the heel turn in 2020 as a way to keep him low.
And I think he's being penalized also for like the last couple of years with the lighter schedule.
Yeah. Well, go ahead, Rob. I'm sorry.
But look, even when he was quote unquote rejected, and I'm putting that in quotes, he was still the top merchandise seller in the company.
He was.
Okay.
That was Duke's point yesterday on the podcast.
He main evented. So this will be 8 and 9 main events, WrestleMania main events after this weekend.
That's the record.
Yeah.
Especially Hogan.
And he's been there for 12 years, so you can't. There's no longevity argument.
Yeah, he has that in spades.
I mean, look, the only thing you can really hold against him, I say, is that the first half of his career, business wasn't in the crapper. It wasn't like the early 90s.
He didn't move the needle.
It was flat, even though the overall business was flat. It wasn't going down, but it was flat during that first half of his career. I wouldn't put that all on him. I wouldn't put much of that. I wouldn't put that on him at all. It's just there were a lot of
business is cyclical anyway, and right now we're in an up cycle. It's about every 7 years. About every 7 years, the business goes through cycles. Yeah. And we're in a hot cycle right now.
And then his first couple of years where he was being pushed at the top were also the years that Cena was cycling down.
Yeah.
And you can't, when somebody like John Cena goes from full-time to part-time, you're going to take a hit.
It's like Hogan in 92.
Yeah. But if there's a knock against him, that is really the only knock against him. But again, he turned his turn and his bloodline storyline literally turned around the fortunes of not just the company, but the entire industry. Okay.
Yeah.
And to have him at 14 and 13 and looking at some of these people who are ahead of him. No. That's no. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. That to me feels like egregious, man. And a needle moving happened with the heel turn. And ever since then, that's all he's been doing for 4 years, moving the needle.
And the Shield was one of the most. Again, that was one of the most over factions. Popular factions. Needle moving factions. The Shield is right there with. In history. They're right there with like the Freebirds and those guys.
Right. All right. Number 12, Rey Mysterio. Okay. I love Rey. What am I missing? This is way too high. Am I missing anything here? Saying it's too high?
Yeah, it's too high, especially ahead of Roman. Come on, man.
Because there are people defending that he should be here. Like people outside of the panel here that voted on this saying that no, he's actually where he should be. Like, what am I missing? Like, I know he's longevity, yes, 28 plus years in the company. Get that.
He also went away for a couple of years.
He did. Yeah. Okay, there you go. But again, ahead of guys like Andre, guys like Roman, guys like Foley. Honestly,
Lesnar, you're gonna look me in the eye with a straight face and tell me that Rey Mysterio,
Orton?
Yeah. And I love Rey. This is such a difficult discussion to have. Because It feels like we're trashing people that we actually genuinely enjoy. I love Rey Mysterio. But if we're objectively looking at this list, I can't put him above guys like Orton, guys like Roman Reigns, guys like Brock Lesnar. Not with a straight face. When I look at their criteria and I look at the reality and the totality of their careers, he's too high.
I wouldn't put him ahead of Andre. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And so I think Rey gets his most legendary status is outside of as much as he's a WWE legend, he's a bigger legend outside of WWE.
Yeah.
I think people are giving him some points for that here, I think.
Which they should, because this is WWE only.
Again, he's a guy who pioneered the style that a lot of these kids love nowadays. Mm-hmm. So we have to take that into consideration when we're looking at his cultural and historical significance in the business. He is, without a doubt, the greatest luchador of the last 20 years, if not all time. You have to rank him up there with Mil Mascaras and Ultimo Dragon and people like that. He has to sit on that Mount Rushmore when you look at those type of guys. Yeah, absolutely. But again, a lot of that was built outside of WWE.
He should be between 18 25.
I think that's fair, but
okay,
so,
I would say 18. I wouldn't put him any lower than 18 because I think Ray's significance to WWE history is important.
Right. All right. Last one of this bunch. Number 11, Kurt Angle.
good grief.
He's top 20. Yes.
Yeah, I think
Not
he's a
number
little high. He's high.
Not 11 though. I'll put him in top. I think give him top 15, one, two, but not 11.
Man, he all right.
Now, for the record, though, he's put a lot of bangers, though, man. To be honest with you, though, his in-ring work is amazing. He was over, charismatic, the whole nine.
I mean, he checks off all the boxes, but
again, I'm the following guys I'm taking over Kurt Angle right now. I'm taking Roman over Kurt Angle. I'm taking Andre over Kurt Angle. I'm taking Foley over Kurt Angle. I'm taking Lesnar and Orton. That's 5 guys.
And Triple H.
And Triple H. That's 6 guys.
And I mean,
he's top 20, but that's about it. But he's not.
I take Seth Rollins over Kurt Angle right now. Seth Rollins
at this point, we're at that. We're having that conversation. So Kurt Angle, is he top 20? Yeah, I'll give him top 20. But he's on the low end of that. Go ahead, DJ, your thoughts.
No, I have no disagreement there. I mean, and again, a hard discussion to have because I absolutely freaking love Kurt Angle. But again, we have to be realistic on these lists. And when we get into the top 10, I mean,
here we go.
I've got some discussions to be had.
We're going to score. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to reveal the entire 10 right now. I'm just going to go 10-1 individually right now. That's the point.
Okay.
People who listen to the podcast don't know the list yet. Because number 10 right off the bat, I might just leave the fucking show and let you finish it. I'm that angry. Number 10 is Hulk Hogan.
Fucking real.
Do you know your fucking history?
The list is disqualified just off of that.
I understand Hulk Hogan, the man behind Hulk Hogan went full-blown white trash about 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And then capped it off with a horrible racist remark. And then just disgusting language that went along with that all at the same time. So the guy behind Hulk Hogan, we hate. I get it. I understand it. But this rewriting of history as to how significant and how important he was to the industry and how actually good at his job he was, absolutely just straight up just bullshit.
And he checks off every fucking box here. Historical significance. That speaks for itself. Hulkamania.
We're not doing this show without Hulkamania.
Thank you.
We're not having this conversation right now.
Right.
WrestleMania does not exist on Hulkamania. It was built on Hulkamania.
People are getting paid the money they're being paid because of Hulk Hogan.
Yes. Championships. Arguably the greatest world champion in history of the company. Arguably. Certainly Mount Rushmore. Popularity speaks for itself. Dude was not only the biggest wrestling name, obviously, in his peak. He was at the time, and Rob, we talked about this on the podcast. He was mentioned among the greatest stars in Hollywood. We say, Michael Jackson, Eddie Murphy, Hulk Hogan.
He's not just a wrestling culture; he's a pop culture
phenomenon.
He still is now. People,
yes. Popularity, arguably the greatest babyface and greatest heel in history of wrestling. Not just WWE, wrestling and WO.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna include it here, but obviously, time active. I mean, that first run alone, he went 9 years. That's a top guy the entire way. Pay-per-view appearances, obviously, he was consistent with that when he was not doing movies. And skills, he was in ring charisma, and he carried Broken Down Andre. He carried Ultimate Warrior, who was one of the worst workers in history of the company. I mean, what more do you want from Hulk Hogan? He checks off every single box. Period.
And look at the WrestleMania 18 match with him and Rock, where they had to flip it in mid-match because of the crowd reaction. How many people can do that?
He had he just felt the energy in the crowd, and he could adjust on the fly based on that energy.
He's a great worker.
And awesome worker.
Yes, and if you're that much of a stickler for how many moves people do in a match, just go watch some of the matches he had in Japan, damn it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. All right, number 9. This is egregious. Roddy Piper.
Oh man, okay.
Ahead of Hulk, there are easily 10 people, and I love Piper. There are 10 people on this list I would put ahead of him immediately.
And Piper is one of those guys, like, that singular moment, that from like 1985, you know, he was as important to the first WrestleMania as Hogan was, you know, as far as being a villain. But he retired the first time in 86, so he wasn't even there that long. I mean, he was there from like 84 to 86, 87.
Wait, 87 after WrestleMania 3.
Yeah, and then after that, he was a part-timer.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but I mean, he's such a culturally significant figure, but he had a very short run. But you know, relatively speaking, he was never world champion. And so, honest man, it's just for how significant he was at his very peak. It's hard to imagine him being low, him should being lower, but now he should probably be in the 20s or maybe 30s.
Yeah,
because of how much has happened.
To your point,
then.
Based on this list, I'm taking the following guys over Piper right now: Hogan, obviously, Kurt Angle over Piper. I might take Rey Mysterio, maybe, definitely Roman, definitely Andre, Brock, probably Mick Foley also, Randy Orton, yes, Triple H, yes,
yeah,
probably Seth Rollins at this point now.
Yeah,
Piper.
Yeah, that's about that. That lines up with my list of people that I would have put ahead of Piper. I mean, like I said, Piper gets points for being one of the pioneers of what we now watch. I mean, obviously, he was a huge part of WrestleMania 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you have to give him points for that. But there's so many other areas where there's a couple other areas where he loses some of that. And the big one is longevity.
Is he top 20? Okay, fine. I'll give you top 20, but bottom 20.
Yeah.
All right. If we're talking like career peak popularity, he's top 10.
Oh,
peak,
yeah.
Peak.
Yeah, I'll do that.
But but all these other categories, yeah, he comes up really short.
And one of the other big criteria is in-ring worker. Roddy Piper was a punch and kick guy. He had a few moves that he could do.
He's a brawler.
He was a brawler. He was a punch and kick. He was I like to call him I hate your face wrestlers.
Yeah. I like how you say that.
Yeah, he's an I hate your face, I want to punch it wrestler.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Number 8, Shawn Michaels. So okay. I don't hate this. I don't hate it. He's definitely a top 10 guy. First off, for me personally, my personal favorites all time is top 5 all time for me. And he's probably looking at the business as a whole between 6 and 9. So I don't hate him at 8. He's definitely arguably the best big match wrestler in the history of pro wrestling. I still think Brett's a better overall worker. Consistently, night to night, no matter what, house shows, pay-per-views, doesn't matter. So Shawn has 2 careers, obviously. Well, 3 really. The Rockers. Then he has the solo run from 92, 98. Goes away 4 years. Comes back. He's virtually a part-timer, right? Really, pretty much at the end of his career. Mm-hmm. You know. I don't hate the number 8. I don't hate it. I really don't, because when he was a top guy, he wasn't necessarily moving the needle in terms of business. But everything else on the list, I think he checks marks off well. Go ahead, AJ. What do you think about Michael's 8? I think it's fine.
Yeah, this is a tough conversation to have, because during the original Click era, boyhood dream, Shawn Michaels' run with his first World Wrestling Federation Championship, it was a terrible run. It was a terrible time in the business. Some of that wasn't his fault. It was just the business in general, and 2, it was the way he was booked. I'm trying to come up with cultural significance as to why Shawn Michaels should be ahead of a Hulk Hogan or Roddy Piper, and I'm honestly having a hard time.
There isn't any cultural significance whatsoever.
There's not.
None.
There's not.
You can't make it up.
And when I look at this thing from a broader picture, there have been many, many wonderful matches that Shawn Michaels has had that are in my top 10, top 20 favorite matches of all time.
Oh, yeah.
But
easily.
When I think of, did he did his career, like if Shawn Michaels were never a thing, we would still be having conversations. Not unlike Hogan, where if Hogan never happens, we're not doing what we're doing right now, like Rob said.
Right.
Shawn Michaels, you can't say that same thing about. Like if he never existed, the business kept going, and the business would have continued.
Well, to your point, it did for 4 years when he got hurt.
It did. The business kept moving.
And it picked up, actually.
Right.
Not saying he was the problem, but,
I don't want to discredit his career because it was an amazing career and he's one of my all-time favorite performers. Mm-hmm. But I cannot in clear conscience put him ahead of Hogan, and I would bump him down to like 11 or 12.
Ooh, you're worse than me. Oh, my God.
I would probably say 11 or 12, and I hate saying that. I truly hate saying that.
See, I think 8's fine. I even say I probably put like a 7 at 6 or 7, but that's as far as it goes. But wow, I think his
there's easily 7 or 8 guys that I think culturally are more important to the business than Shawn Michaels was.
I think what saves him from me and why I'm okay with 8 is because his big matches on WrestleMania, they all stand out. The Iron Man match, people don't like it, whatever. But that match, the Taker matches at Mania late in his career, the Triple H match at SummerSlam, he has so many classic big match credentials that I think weighs that argument why he should be in the top 10 at least.
I know, according to Dave Meltzer, he's never had a 5-star, has he?
Well, he's a moron. So, he's, that's twice, that's two shows in a row. I make fun of Dave Meltzer. But, 8's fine. I'm okay with 8.
Okay.
Rob,
ooh, boy.
You said 10, 11, you were saying, DJ?
I would say 11.
Okay.
He should absolutely not be ahead of Hulk Hogan.
Well, yeah.
Man. All right.
This is probably the toughest discussion on
the list. Is he top?
Okay,
I'll simplify for Robert now. Is Shawn Michaels top 10? Yes or no?
I'm thinking this through while we're doing it here. Because he should not be ahead of Hulk Hogan.
Okay.
That's
okay. Who are the following guys on this list that you would take over right now?
For career?
Yeah, on this list that are behind him. Hogan,
okay.
Yes.
Hogan, yes. I would take Roman ahead of him right now. Roman was.
Oh yeah, I'll take Roman. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Roman. Because like Roman was consistently doing 4-star matches on TV. Sorry. Oops, hit the wrong thing.
No, you're good.
Okay. Roman had this stretch from like 2016 through 2019 where he was just doing 4-star matches on TV almost every week, and it gets forgotten because all the plenty people were doing about him, and then there's the run he's had the last 4 years, and what I would take Roman ahead of him. I would take Hogan, obviously.
Keep talking. Wife's calling me. Keep talking. All right.
Okay, man. Okay, so I think Triple H and Randy Orton have longevity over him, but I would not watch either one. If you gave me like here's 10 Triple H matches, here's 10 Randy Orton matches, here's 10 Shawn Michaels matches, I would take 10 Shawn Michaels matches every day.
Right, and that's kind of what makes this discussion so difficult, is because you don't want to make it sound like we're discrediting his work. That's certainly not the case. But when I look at his overall impact on the industry, I think he's going to have more impact running NXT than he ever did as a WWE superstar.
Probably. And yeah, it's just, because how long? So he got there in '88 when he was doing the Rocker.
Yeah.
Stayed through '98 when he went out as 10 years, and he came back in 2002 and stayed 2010. Yeah.
Yeah,
so
he was active until 2010, and then he just did appearances and was an attraction after that. So the longevity's there. He had a little break because of his injury.
Yeah.
But he was a consistent person on WWE TV.
And then, yeah, it's tough.
So you would put Shawn not in top 10, or you put him like this right at the cusp?
Well, I'd put Hogan and Roman ahead of him right now.
Those are the only two guys I put. Those are the only two guys I put ahead of him on this list. That is it.
Maybe Andre.
No, I don't know if I can put Andre there at this point. San Martino's only getting love because of they're shoehorning older guys. So even if I put Shawn, like I think Shawn 8 through 10 is perfect. I think 8 through 10 is right the sweet spot for Shawn.
10 or I'd say 10 or 11 maybe. Yeah.
Okay. All right. 7, The Rock.
Man, that's tough.
That's low.
Well,
yeah.
But now we're at the point where we're arguing like
Semantics.
Jordan, Kobe, LeBron, Magic. We're
getting close to that. Yeah.
Yeah. The top 5 gets a little dicey
because now we're at the point where we're splitting hairs.
But there's also guys in the top 5 that shouldn't beat in the first place. So I mean, we're splitting hairs based on what? So for me, it's a little simple because there are guys. For crying out loud, my favorite wrestler of all time is in the top 3, and I don't think he belongs there. But he checks all the boxes though.
All right. So if we're talking, like peak popularity,
that's Rocky.
He might be number 1. Just mainstream. Because Hogan is as much of a mainstream figure as Hogan was. He didn't. I mean, he was doing B movies. Other than Rocky 3.
Yeah.
Okay. The Rock has been doing like mainstream
blockbuster mainstream movies.
So when we're talking cultural significance, cultural reach, or whatever,
he's already the biggest wrestler in history of wrestling that has that.
Yeah, Rock took it took it further. But now where he started in what 96, and then
04 he was done.
He was done as a full timer in 02 basically.
02, right?
Yeah, so it's not really short, but it's not really long either.
But to me though, I think the longevity thing, because he has had like a 8-year gap here, a 4-year gap here. But when he comes back, he moves the needle immediately every single time. Whether or not it's the Rock, Rocky Maivia to the Rock, then Rock to corporate Rock, and then that got stale for a couple of years. And he goes to Hollywood Rock, was arguably the best Rock in my opinion of his entire 20-something year run. And then you have that to he goes away for 8 years, and then all of a sudden you get the Cena stuff, and that was phenomenal in terms of that brought you guys back. If I'm not mistaken, right?
It did.
Yeah. And the Cena stuff helped. I mean, it didn't. It basically it stabilized things.
Yeah, and then you have the shit he's doing now. Final boss.
And when I seen in this run right here, even though it hasn't even had any matches, this run right here is, as far as character work and all that, is as good as anything he's ever done.
Yeah, he's too low.
7 is I mean, honestly, when you add everything up, 7 probably is too low.
Yeah, DJ The Rock.
He's too low. He easily should be in the top 3.
Top 3.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Top 3.
Definitely argument there. Definitely Mount Rushmore argument for me all time. Number 6, San Martino. I mean, like I said, I think the San Martino thing is he's just shoehorned in to show some respect.
He's a sentimental.
Right.
Okay.
Voted on by a bunch of guys who probably never even watched anything in the Bruno era.
Let's acknowledge that guy. That's all.
Okay. I think he should still be top 5.
Okay. I'm not mad about it.
Okay. Remember, he was world champion for almost 8 years. And then he came back and won it again and was champ for like over 3 years. And you don't get your world champ for 8 years for sentimental reasons. Okay. And well, I mean, it's hard. Yes, I mean, there were no pay-per-views. There was no WrestleMania. If there was WrestleMania when he was champ, he was main evented every year. Okay. If there was a WrestleMania back then, he would have main evented every single year.
Yeah.
Both times he was champ. If there were pay-per-views back then, he would have main evented all of them. Okay. So I think for him, you got to kind of look at it that way. You got to kind of play. Well, I said that because he main evented so many shows and he sold out so many shows.
Yeah.
You have to kind of look at like if they had pay-per-views, if they had WrestleMania, he would have been on top of all of those things for 8 years. And then for another 3 years, the second time. And then maybe even a couple of times as a spot show when he was a part-time. Okay. I mean, he main evented the Garden one last time when he was like 50 years old.
Mm-hmm.
For my money, he's the best cage match wrestler in history. You look at some of those, I mean, you look at some of those, you see some of the videos, you go back and look at some of those videos. Yeah. For my money, he's the best cage match wrestler in history.
Right.
So I think top 5 is fair. He drew money, man, and he drew the money as champion. Like Andre was an attraction, wasn't an attraction. Bruno was champ
as the core guy, the main guy of the company. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which again, when I do Mount Rushmore, that's my number one thing. Was your company growing around you? And that's why Hogan's in mind, and so is Austin, for example. San Martino. Go ahead, DJ. San Martino.
Oh yeah, he's top 5. Bruno's top 5 for me.
Okay.
Yeah, but for all the reasons Rob said, Bruno's obviously a top 5, and it's for a lot of people that are going to look at this list and like we were saying a minute ago, kind of in there is the sentimental. A lot of people really didn't watch Bruno, so to them, it's their grandfather's wrestler.
So technically, he's too low for you guys then, because number 5 is John Cena.
I mean, because look, my dad was a black man from Orangeburg, South Carolina, and he was a big mark for the Italian immigrant from San Martino. Okay. All right. I mean, and back at a time where you didn't have that kind of cross-cultural fandom, as much. Okay.
John Cena 5. I mean, I'm not gonna argue about it.
Ooh.
Certainly top 5 guy. I mean, you can argue higher. But that's either here or there.
Yeah, we're splitting hairs again.
Yeah. I mean, he's a Mount Rushmore candidate, obviously, which puts you in number 5. He's definitely in the conversation.
And now in his case, I mean, he held the title a bunch of times, and in his case, even when he was not champion, he was still clearly the top guy in the company.
Correct. Charismatic. Pay-per-view appearances, active a long time.
Longevity.
Needle mover. Titles, historical significance, I guess more so with just sustaining, I guess, the post Attitude Era, I guess. I'm assuming.
Well, and he kept that company afloat during the down years.
Right.
Yeah. He's got that mainstream cultural reach. He has it more than people realize.
Right. Especially now.
There are a lot of people who don't, there are people who were not watching wrestling in
you can't see me
or whatever.
You can't see me, Rob.
Yeah, but who knew? Yeah, exactly. Who knew that and who knew about him? So, I think 5. Yeah, top 5. Yeah, he's top 5.
Easy top 5. I mean, arguably higher. To be honest with you. So.
Yeah. So I mean, so right now, I mean, as far as people who should be top 5, Rock, Hogan, Cena, Bruno, we got 4 guys here who I would put in the top 5. So far.
All right, here we go. Top 4. Here we go. Number 4, The Undertaker.
Man.
So for stability reasons, I see why he's in love here. But if I'm doing my top, is he top 10 WWE all time? Yes. Let's go there. He's top 10.
He's not a top 4.
He's greatest character history of
absolutely.
Yes.
He's top 10 definitely. He's not a top 5 though.
No.
Greatest character, greatest job at making a gimmick work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd say, probably greatest ever at performing a gimmick, I would say, because that gimmick should not have worked. Okay. That absolutely should not have worked for 30 years.
And it did. But well, to his credit, he time and time again retooled that gimmick, make it fresh.
Yeah.
So where should he be, DJ, if not top 4?
7, 8, or 9.
Yeah, I'm the same way too. 7, 8, 9.
Yeah,
same.
7, 8, or 9.
Rob,
awesome, just legacy. Awesome, and a bit of a cultural influence. I mean, people outside of wrestling know who The Undertaker is.
Yes. Correct.
I mean, it's a guy they know, and they know about him because the gimmick was just again, like Rob said, it never should have worked, and somehow or another, he fucking made it cool.
Yeah, and consistent.
And consistent, yes.
Yeah, and probably the most trustworthy employee Vince ever had.
Yeah,
honestly.
Yeah, he was ride or die for Vince McMahon.
Absolutely.
Yep. Good, bad, or indifferent.
Yep.
He was never insubordinate. He didn't screw Vince any kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
He never walked out on Vince at any point. The only knock on him really is that they never made him the unquestioned number one guy.
Yeah, and I think that's what hurts him in the Mount Rushmore conversation. It was never built around him. He was just a stable guy. He was a stability guy, So, all right, number 3, my all-time favorite wrestler, Macho Man Randy Savage. So I'm gonna tell you right now, it feels high. However, looking at the criteria, he's the only guy that not only checks marked every single box here on the other criteria, he does it all on a high level. Every single one. Titles, check. Historical significance, WrestleMania 3. That match still is regarded as one of the best matches, if not the greatest match of all time, WrestleMania history. Popularity, was the biggest heel, and at one point a huge face behind Hogan or with Hogan. Needle mover, check. It was very active when he was healthy, was there. Period appearances was consistent. Skills, charisma, come on now, we know that already. Mike, come on now, we know that already. In ring, phenomenal. So he's one of the only guys in history of wrestling that checks on every single box. It makes a great superstar.
Yeah, I guess he wasn't Hogan. That was it. I mean,
it's a booking thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he wasn't definitely good enough.
Well, I mean, we'll never. I guess, of course, we'll never know that if you swapped him and Hogan in 1983, would you have got the same result? Probably not, because Hogan had the recognition from Rocky 3 on his on his back.
That's true.
But if Randy Savage had been in Rocky 3 instead, could you have gotten the same result with him? Maybe.
I think behind the scenes, Randy Savage was just a little too volatile of a person, whereas I think Hogan was a better businessman.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that's part of what made Hulkamania work, was that Hogan just had a overall better fundamental understanding of the business. And that's not, to say Savage wasn't awesome and, equally as much of a presence. But looking backstage, peeling back the curtain, I think Hogan probably had an edge there.
Because, Hogan was running his own merch before he came there.
Yeah.
Yep.
So he already, he understood things about the business end of it that other people hadn't gotten yet. He's top 10 sure, but number 3 is too high.
Yeah, he's definitely top 10, definitely. He's probably between 6 and 8 also too for me.
Because
I'm thinking 6 or 7.
Yeah,
because to me, if somebody were to say Magic Johnson was number 1, I'd be like,
yeah, it's too high.
Yeah,
top 5, yes. He doesn't form my list for record.
Yeah.
So, all right, number 2. This is probably gonna be a little controversial, I guess. No, not really. It is for me. Stone Cold Steve Austin.
What I think he's my 5th top 5 guy. So Austin, Rock, Cena, Hogan, Bruno. Those are my 5.
Austin number 2. He should be number 1 in my opinion, but that's just me.
Well, I think now, Rock is past him with the later stuff. I think.
Only thing I will say is that Austin had to walk before The Rock could run.
Yeah.
Because if Stone Cold Steve Austin as a character had never taken off, we would never have gotten The Rock.
True.
And that's the only way. That's the only reason that I'll give Stone Cold the edge over Rocky, is because he laid the foundation for what The Rock built upon.
And I guess it's kind of like Magic and Bird and Michael Jordan. Almost like Michael took them to greater heights than Magic and Bird did, but Magic and Bird saved the league.
Yeah.
It's tough because Rock has some of the longevity moments, and he's been active even far after Austin's retirement in 2003. But height of powers, there's been no bigger superstar in the history of WWE than Stone Cold Steve Austin was in those 3-4 years in WWE. And no one more popular ever to this day than Stone Cold Steve Austin.
And then, I mean, and again, 1998. Oh, his ascension is what turned around the Monday Night Wars.
Yep.
He was, for a good bit, he was like the thing that was keeping them relevant versus WCW.
And he was culture too, also pop culture for that one.
He very much. I remember reading an article on him in, I think it was Rolling Stone. They did like a big 2 or 3 page write up on Stone Cold Steve Austin and how culturally significant he was. And all of a sudden, white dudes were growing goatees and shaving their heads.
Mm-hmm.
And he again, for that time period, reached outside of that wrestling bubble.
Yeah. I think he should be number one. That's my opinion. He's definitely a Mount Rushmore lock for me.
Yeah.
Number one for me. I'm somewhat shocked, but not shocked, because at the end of the day, this guy is, in my opinion, the greatest worker in the history of pro wrestling, regardless of company, and that's Bret Hart, number one. There is no better worker consistently night after night. Doesn't give a shit what event it is, WrestleMania, house show, Sunday main event, whatever. He works 100% the same way no matter what, and Bret Hart is that guy. So in retrospect, I do actually respect the fact that he want to acknowledge his work. But it's still too high, though. He's top 10, but not too. It's just too high, though.
Rob, you want to go or you want me to go?
Bret is too high. I mean, I named my top 5. So Bret is top 10. But number one's way too high.
Yeah. DJ.
This is absolutely the toughest part of conversation for me, because Bret Hart is on my Mount Rushmore of workers. Like, I agree with everything you say. He's absolutely probably the best pure worker in the history of the business. He's one of my all-time favorites. But when I look at the people below him on this list, I cannot in clear conscience say that Bret Hart was a bigger draw than Stone Cold Steve Austin, Hulk Hogan, Randy Savage, The Rock. He was a draw, and he was definitely, a guy who kept WWE afloat during the absolute worst of times. His world championship run from like 93 on up kind of gets overshadowed by the fact that the new generation era was a terrible era. And he was putting in some really, really good work in a terrible time in WWE business. So it's unfortunate that that's the legacy that Bret Hart carries forward. But as far as they were never going to, we just talked about Stone Cold Steve Austin. WWE was never going to do that with Bret Hart. And I love Bret, but they tried Bret as a heel, and it worked in the dynamic with Steve Austin because it was something different. Steve Austin was an asshole, and everybody loved him for it.
Mm-hmm.
So we needed Bret Hart to try and be a bigger asshole that we could hate because we loved Steve Austin so much. But they were never going to build WWE's popularity and where they went from 99 on off the back of Bret Hart.
Right.
The character, not the wrestler. But yeah, that's a tough one for me to have. I agree. He's in the top 10. He's definitely not number 1. And I hate that being a Bret Hart mark.
Yeah, I'm with you. And it's funny. I did a watch along of Bret's WrestleMania 10. Both matches. It's Owen, of course. The match against Yokozuna is actually pretty good too. Also.
Yeah.
Bret, both guys really, but Bret especially put his working shoes on that night.
There's another match. I just did a watch along. I'm doing a project with a couple guys on the Chair Shot Radio Network, the Big Four project,
right.
And we just did SummerSlam 92. And the main event was Bret Hart and Davey Boy for the Intercontinental Championship, the one over in Wembley. And there were some nuggets that Dave the lawyer dropped on us. I didn't even know that Bret basically carried Davey through that entire match because Davey had been he was all coked up like days before that match. And when you watch it with that knowledge, you see it. Like, they had this amazing match. Like, you remember it, you're like, that match was fucking awesome. Bret was every reason why that match was fucking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Because Davey was, you look at it, Davey's body is there, but that's it.
I got now that you said it now, I gotta watch that now with the same that in mind now.
Watch it with that in mind. It's a totally different experience. It's still a great match.
Oh,
it really is, but it is a much different watching experience now.
Does Bret Hart have a bad match at all in his career? Because
I don't know that Bret's ever had a bad match.
I mean, well, he's got some matches that he would tell you were bad.
Yeah,
but he's also grading on a curve. He's probably harder on himself than anybody else is to him.
Yeah.
So yeah. But yeah, Bret Hart's top 10 definitely. He's definitely not 6 to 8 range as well, maybe 6 to 9 range, because I think did he move the needle? No. Historical significance, obviously the Montreal Screwjob, the whole 9. That's obviously huge. Worker, he was a phenomenal worker. Charisma, it's funny.
He settles in the middle somewhere with charisma.
He was okay with charisma, but I think his 97 run is what turned it on. His best promo work was in 97.
Yeah, he was in his bag in 97, no doubt.
I would say Bret Hart's 97 is arguably one of the most fascinating and arguably one of the best years of any superstar has ever had in pro wrestling.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. But yeah, their list here is mostly garbage, though. I'm sorry, Bleacher Report.
Garbage. I mean, because like the people that are not there, we mentioned no Paul, no Tito Santana, no Pedro Morales. No Bob Backlund. Bob Backlund was world champion for 6 years. How do you not have one?
You know who else is going to miss on this list too? Also, you're going to hate me for saying this probably. I don't know how you feel about this, because I know it's probably the most controversial name is Chris Benoit.
Fuck that guy.
I'm sorry. People say, "Well, you can't say that." Okay, again, we're talking about his work.
I mean, but even then, I mean, okay.
Better than Vader.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Yeah, but there's probably 6 other guys ahead of Chris Benoit, and Chris Benoit's best work was not in WWE.
No.
Oh, that I agree with too also. And he had what, a 4-year, 5-year stretch at WWE?
Yeah. Because he passed away, about a year or so after Eddie. The shit happened with him about a year or so after Eddie. So
yeah. What a tragic situation.
Yeah. But also, I mean, like, so no Bob Backlund.
Yeah. Ward Vader.
Because he just
Vader's the benchmark right now.
We're gonna be stuck on this Vader thing for a minute.
Because he just shouldn't be there. I mean,
I don't disagree with you guys.
I put Rhea and Bianca ahead of Vader.
How funny is it that Vader is the one that stuck out at all 3 of us? Is like, how the fuck did he end up on this list?
Right, and then I mean, I put Bayley ahead of Vader. I mean, as far as career,
yeah. I put Bianca at this point at Vader.
Yes, it's Rhea and Bianca and Bayley.
Yeah.
Tito Santana, Bob Backlund, Diesel. We even said Davey Boy Smith, British Bulldog, not on the list. I mean,
what about Haku?
I mean, he had a better career.
I'm joking around.
But he had a better career in WWE than Vader did.
He was a tag team champion,
and he
was a king.
So
yes, he was.
So that is a better career than Vader had. Yes. And wait a minute, hold up.
What?
You got to be kidding me.
What?
He's not here.
Who's that?
Who?
Ted DiBiase.
Oh shit!
Wow, how did we just go through 2 hours worth of show, 50 names on a list, and Ted DiBiase didn't pop up once? I'm ashamed.
And the sick part too also is that DiBiase was, for a good year or maybe in 2 years, one of the most red hot heels in the company.
Oh, he was the top heel in the company.
Yeah.
And then at one point he was in the conversation for best in-ring worker in the world.
He could cut a promo. He had the in-ring skills.
And he's not on the list. He's not here at all.
I think he loses a little points because I think the only real championships he ever won was tag team champions with Money Inc.
But again, in the era too where Hogan, Savage, Warrior all hogging it.
Yeah.
And
Vince didn't want to put the championship on a heel.
Exactly.
Yeah. But he's not here. The Miz had a better career than Vader and Ricky Steamboat and some of these other guys.
Yeah.
He's not here.
I am sick and tired of the Miz hate.
Yes,
sick and tired of it. I'm going to cut a whole promo on our show one day, Rob.
So, I mean, now I don't know where you put the Miz, but he's had a better career than Vader. He had a better career than Ricky Steamboat.
Better in China.
He had a better career in China. I mean, you can say he had a better, even guys like Razor. I mean, because Miz has been doing it for almost 20 years.
Miz is arguably the greatest IC champion of all time. Arguably.
I mean, he's in the conversation.
Maybe top 3.
And he's been he's been doing it almost 20 years.
Yeah.
I mean, he main evented WrestleMania, Money in the Bank twice,
pop culture significance. He has a TV show with him and his wife.
Yeah, I mean, so how is he not in the top 50?
Egregious list. Launch it into the sun.
Yes. I mean, and so what now that we're doing is I'm still looking because there are more people.
Give me another one. If we get out of here.
JBL better than he had a better than some of these people. He actually had a better.
His run was short though. The run was a 2-year run as a solo.
Was like but you got to count his entire career. I mean, he was a solo act as Justin Hawk Bradshaw or Justin Hawk Layfield, and then he teamed up with Ron Simmons, and they were the APA for a while, and then he had his single. Like you got to do the cumulative thing,
right? Yeah. I mean, man, who else? I mean, just somebody's. Yeah, I mean. And obviously, you can't squeeze all these people into a top 50 with people who are there. But
Mark Henry, not the list.
He has an argument. I'm not a big fan of his, but he has an argument for it.
But I mean, those are all people who I say have had better WWE careers than
Vader and China.
Yeah. And or even somebody like I said, Billy Graham had that 1 year where he was a big deal, right?
So bigger than Vader, bigger than China.
I mean, it's just I'm trying to think. But now I'm sorry. Now I gotta run through my little mental roller and just.
This could be a whole other show.
Yeah, it's just. But yeah, some of these just omissions are just. I mean,
it's egregious.
Yeah, and I'm yes, it's bad. It's really bad. This list is really bad. Well, hell, who had a better career, Dolph Ziggler or Vader?
Dolph Ziggler, exactly.
Ziggler, not on the list.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not saying.
Yeah, we could do this the rest of the night.
I'm not saying Dolph should even be top 50, but if we're doing better careers, Dolph Ziggler or Vader, Dolph Ziggler or Ricky Steamboat in WWE, we could do it forever.
So on behalf of all of us in the podcast, Vader, we apologize. Rest in peace.
Yeah, because look, Vader. To the White family, if any of you were listening to this, we actually love your dad, granddad, whatever he was to you.
Yeah,
it's just we love everything he did outside of the WWE.
Yeah. Big Van Vader, not
Big Van Vader was awesome. Right. WWE Vader was not awesome.
And also the one final payday Vader was
awesome.
When he suckered Will Ospreay into doing a match with him and doing this. Okay, that one, So, but unfortunately, none of that was in the WWE.
Yeah. All right, fellas, this was awesome. Much longer I thought it was going to go, but again, a lot to react to here.
We had a lot to unpack, man.
Yeah, we did. Plug away. Who wants to go first? Rob, want to go first?
Well, as always, you can listen to us every week. Mindless Wrestling Podcast, me, DJ, and Jason. You can hear me every couple of weeks on the RobTheGenius podcast. And I will plug this last episode we did of your podcast, Ernest. That I've listened to it back with me and Duke, and it was hilarious.
DJ, listen to that episode when you get a chance. That shit.
I'm going to try and fit that in either tomorrow or Friday. I'm going to be kind of busy tomorrow, but Friday I've definitely got some free time.
Duke's a fucking character, I'm just going to say.
I told Rob, I was like, damn, I'm sorry I missed it. I've been hoping to chop it up with Duke for quite a while. And he and I have gone back and forth on Twitter a couple times, but it just never materialized. But
he's a character.
Yeah. I never thought I'd hear somebody talking about Punk was trying to asphyxiate Jack Perry. Okay. And never thought I heard the word attempted murder.
Attempted murder.
This fucking guy went straight lawyer on the whole CM Punk.
Oh my God! Is he prone to hyperbole? Is this what we're doing?
Yes, and then some. And then
just a little bit.
I respect the hustle.
Yeah. Hey, listen, it's a character. He played to it. I'm okay with it. DJ,
I respect it.
Yeah. Go ahead, DJ.
Hey, again, with Rob and Jason on the Mindless Wrestling Podcast, we drop on Saturdays on the Chairshot Radio Network. You can find me on the app formerly known as Twitter at The Mindless Pod.
Still Saturdays, dude? Come on.
Yeah, that's our time slot, man. I have no control over it. I'm not the boss. I'm not even like the underboss or like the street level thug.
It's crazy. It looks like you guys do a preview for WrestleMania this week, for example, and you're gonna get the preview like hours before the fucking show starts. Like, come on.
Yeah. Instead of watching NXT Stand and Deliver, listen to our WrestleMania pre-show coverage.
Yeah, listen to me recite a bunch of facts and figures.
I love you, Greg.
It's all good. It's all good.
It's okay, Greg. I'm not making fun. I'm just saying that. Damn, it's too late. Anyway, but fellas, good job as always, man. I know it's getting late, so let's get out of here.
I had a good time, man. I'm going to bed. You guys have a good night.
You got it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.